up, everyone? Welcome to 234 of the Fantasy Focus podcast in partnership with Monkey Knife Fight. Ryan Levy here with my boys Derek Tate and Matt Bucks. Post week 3, gents, and we've got our first coronavirus catastrophe. How you gents doing?
Doing all right. I'm kind of like sweating it over here because guillotine leagues, you don't have time to monkey around with this, man. You got to know exactly what you're getting into if you want to survive, which survival is the name of the game in those guillotine leagues. So I don't know, man. Things may get a little interesting here in week 4 of NFL action.
Yeah, it should be pretty interesting. It's inevitable that we're going to have a situation with coronavirus that pop up. I think that piece is inevitable. So, I guess it's better that it's happening early, and we hope it doesn't spread throughout the league. Lord knows if this were to happen later in the year, depending on who's out. Do we know exactly which players are out, or is that confidential at this point?
I think it's still confidential.
I haven't seen a list where they released who's on the COVID-19 list and who's not. So as of right now, confidential, just within the Titans organization.
Aren't you guys surprised it took this long for it to happen? Like it's already post week 3 and really this is the first issue.
I mean, yeah, a little bit. Personally, I thought it was going to be without that bubble type environment. I thought we were going to see more players test positive in a contact sport, but kind of figured something like this would happen eventually. But the one encouraging thing is that Major League Baseball, who played pretty much every day over a 2 or 3 month span, was able to get past what was the Miami Marlins having an outbreak within the first week of the season. So football is a little bit more spaced out. That's the one advantageous thing that they have over baseball, is that if you have a breakout on the team, you're not having to reschedule games on a daily basis. You have them at the end of the week, which, by the way, the reports for the Titans-Steelers tilt being postponed, they're only planning on trying to move it to Monday or Tuesday at this point. They're not trying to reschedule it, at a later week date. So I think that all those things bode well for us not seeing too many issues outside of actual players testing positive. And hopefully, they make sure that they're staying safe, quarantining, and not spreading it to their family members and such like that.
I'm most curious with trying to figure out how are they going to report to the public, to fantasy football players who I know aren't the priority here, what is going on and who's affected here. Is it going to be a situation, Derek, where Monday or Tuesday comes around and you have Derrick Henry and he just doesn't play?
Oh, man, this is a mess. This is the problem.
No, I don't think that we're going to see anything crazy like that. What I imagine is, we do say that all teams' activities are suspended until Saturday, from what I believe. So, do we know if we're going to get any information on who's on the COVID list or who's quote unquote on the injury list for those two teams, in particular the Titans? We don't know yet. So Saturday we should probably have some more information. So hopefully, Buck, Saturday is when we'll find out all the answers to what's going on and who's going to be out, who has potentially been exposed or contracted COVID.
And we just got to get through the Jets and Broncos on Thursday first, which should be an absolute delight to watch as an NFL fan. I certainly can't wait, boys.
Yeah, I was texting with my buddy, just, making a funny comment. Basically, I think Thursday night I will be, watching some Dancing with the Stars or something, getting some brownie points with wifey, because she doesn't really know it's an absolute shit fest of a match. She's like, "Oh, you're not watching football this week?" I'm getting some extra bonus points on Thursday night football this week. That's it, boys.
I'm a sucker. I'm the same fish that falls for the same lure every single time. I get pulled into the boat. I hate it on the boat. I suffer on the boat. And then eventually I get tossed back out into the lake. That's exactly how I feel every Thursday. The NFL, this is the general talking point, I think, with COVID and now transitioning into Thursday night games. We have to figure out a better solution. Like the first week, it's always a great matchup. And it just seems like every year it's a run of complete terrible shit games. Is it just the primetime mandatory thing that we get into this pickle every single year? I want to see some good high-flying football on Thursday nights.
I don't know what it is. I don't know why the NFL feels the need to even play games on a Thursday night if you're just going to schedule, less than marquee matchups. I mean, they can't help that Drew Lock got hurt. We're going to see the NFL starting debut of Brett Rippon, which, by the way, great name. But we're going to see the starting debut of Brett Rippon and an offense for the Broncos that, it seems like they just can't seem to avoid the injury bug right now. So, I mean, it's a little bit of bad luck that we're getting a dumpster fire of a game, but you know what? I'm always an advocate of I'd rather have more football than less.
Wait a second. Is Brett Rippon, is that Mark Rippon's son?
I believe they are related. I can't off the top of my head confirm whether or not it's his son, but I imagine it's the same, related to the Mark Rippon of the Washington old school Washington football.
Of the football club.
Yeah.
The football team.
Oh,
No, I don't think he's related. Tim and Julie Rippon in Spokane, Washington. Growing up, multi-sport athlete playing football in addition to baseball. Son of a father who played minor league baseball. Phenomenal. What a story. I can't wait to watch it all unfold.
0-3 versus 0-3 with a riveting line set by Vegas of 39 points and an even spread. They don't know what's going to happen in this game. If you're betting on this game, you got a problem.
The fact that we have a pick'em in week 4 of the NFL is preposterous. Everyone just stay away.
Transitioning.
I would say that one team has to win, but we found out that that's not the case because the Eagles and the Bengals, they somehow snapped their losing streak by not winning.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
It's been a hell of a ride so far. Golly, I mean, what should we transition into here?
I want to just quickly talk about that Monday Night Football matchup because for some reason the Chiefs were underdogs. We briefly talked about that, I believe, on the live show on Sunday morning. And the over-under was set at 54.5 in this game, by the way. It had this rigged feeling to me as I was watching the game. We had a missed extra point, missed field goal, all that. And it ends at 54 points on the nose. Just really weird. And then time's winding down there. And instead of kicking the field goal, they just go for it on 4th down. Easily could have been 57 points, but we got to hit it right on the nose at 54 when the over set at 54.5. So that made me sick, but
there's a reason why the buildings in Vegas are so big. And it's because they know what they're doing. They don't lose. They will continue to frustrate bettors, fantasy players all over. I mean, this year, looking at the over-unders, everything has seemed a bit low, and then you get a 54 and they hit it.
Right.
Just crazy. But yeah, there's a reason why the Wynn Hotel is so beautiful and magnificent.
Right. In general, though, what did you guys think about that game? I mean, to me, it's if I'm a Ravens fan or a Ravens fantasy owner, I'm a little bit concerned.
I mean, a little. I mean, if you're the Baltimore Ravens and you have talent all over the place on both sides of the football, and you have the league's most dynamic dual threat weapon in Lamar Jackson, and you get stomped, and basically they got Mahomes. Mahomes is on another level. Like, that's what this game told me, is that Mahomes is on another level than Lamar Jackson, and Lamar's great. Like, I'm not trying to make it sound like, Lamar Jackson got punked. He just got outplayed by a better player, by a better quarterback, by a better generational talent, in my opinion. Now, everybody wants the next Lamar Jackson, the next dual threat guy that can, just torch you both through the air and on the ground. But make no mistake about it, that dude number 15 in Kansas City is that's the hurdle that the Baltimore Ravens, if they want to go to the Super Bowl and get over the hump, they're going to have to go through number 15 at some point. And right now, I mean, it was a stern reminder that Patrick Mahomes is the baddest man in the NFL.
Yeah, it's the consistency, really. It's the poise, the consistency, the ability to make throws others can't. I think the only guy that can compete from just a pure arm perspective is Josh Allen, but Josh Allen does not have the mental, right? He does not have that same poise, the same consistency, which has always been the knock with Allen. He's taken steps this year, but you're absolutely right. It's even with those two, and Allen's performances have been through the roof, fantasy-wise, but in terms of consistently winning on the football field, there's nobody that touches Patrick Mahomes. He's just phenomenal, and his growth year over year, you think he'll hit a ceiling eventually. I'm not sure he will. He's just so damn good, so many weapons, so consistent. And CEH coming in there, we all were on the CEH train as, you know, a high volume, high priority rookie for dynasty leagues and for overall redrafts. But he has really been the guy who's tied it all together there in Kansas City.
I mean, he's unbelievable. I've never enjoyed watching a player more in the league than this guy. I don't think they'll ever be an underdog again. Like, you should not be doubting this man and the talent or this team in general. Like, 3.5-point underdog. Come on, that was a mistake.
The man just knows how to win football games. And that's scary when he's not just a guy that, you know, can turn it all. I mean, he is the most talented, gifted player on the football field 9 times out of 10. And not only does he have the weapons around him that just make this offense essentially scary. It's a track meet every single week. You added that one missing cog that you needed in the backfield. But ultimately, it's just that it factor that Mahomes has. That either he's going to come up and if he feels like someone's trying to challenge him, he's going to not only try to play and win the game, but he's also going to try to ball out and prove a point. And also, you know, we saw it last season in the postseason where he was coming back on a consistent basis from like double-digit deficits in 3 straight games to a Super Bowl title. Like, he's just that dude, man. He's the baddest man on the planet, in my opinion. And he showed everybody on a primetime game against last year's MVP that I'm that dude.
Well, we got a hell of a matchup this weekend with the New England Patriots. And then Thursday Night Football, October 15th, 2 weeks from tomorrow, the Buffalo Bills host the Kansas City Chiefs. So I do get my wish in a couple of weeks. Hopefully both teams still undefeated. Both teams have tests coming up. But that's something to circle on the Thursday night calendar.
Oh, I'm looking forward to that one. But speaking of that dude, can we talk about BDN and the Chicago Bears real quick? I know you got that Chicago hat on over there, Derek.
It's LPN.
Large phallus Nick, yes.
Large phallus Nick. He's back.
Come on, we're censoring ourselves here nowadays. Come on.
Yes.
We got to be family friendly.
Families.
But so I thought it was there was some great from Nick Foles and there was some bad, but ultimately moving forward, right? So first off, we have to mention that Tariq Cohen tore his ACL. He's out for the year. So, I mean, we're going to see a little bit more Cordero Patterson out of the backfield. So if you're in a deep PPR league, I think it's worth, you know, throwing a dart and picking up Cordero. But really, this helps David Montgomery. This helps this entire Bears offense collectively, in particular, Allen Robinson. I mean, you got a guy that, you know, Matt Nagy in that game, you watched the tape against the Falcons, and the Falcons defense sucks, but you saw windows in proper place dialed up, and Trubisky just missed them. He missed a wide open touchdown to Anthony Miller. Miller dropped a touchdown pass from a beautiful throw on Nick Foles from 4th and goal on the 17-yard line. I mean, this offense is going to click. If you're an Anthony Miller believer like myself, this is where you're going to see him potentially take off. And Allen Robinson is going to be Allen Robinson. I'm excited about this Bears offense because I think that Foles is going to be able to run this system exponentially more efficient than Mitchell Trubisky, and in particular, consistency. You're not going to get these goose egg games from pass catchers in the Chicago offense anymore with Foles under center.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's that hit or miss with Mitch that I think we're just going to get some more consistency. Now, there's always the bad with Nick Foles, too. We will see interceptions. We will see frustrating quarterback play, but I'm not jumping on board. If you really need a quarterback, sure, pick him up, stream it, whatever. But I'm with you, Tate. I'm very excited about the tools in the tool shed there, getting better usage, and it starts and ends with Allen Robinson. I look for a big tick up for him across the board, and he's a guy that, you know, you started him through 2 weeks with Mitch. It was not great, right? I mean, he was getting the targets, but it just, you need that consistency. And then we saw it in spades. I think he had 8 or 10 catches, something like that in that
10
game.
catches. I mean,
catches.
We talked about it on Sunday, and for a guy that was a top 10 PPR wide receiver last year, if I'm not mistaken, I think he finished at like 9 or something like that. I don't know off the top of my head, but you drafted him in the 3rd or 4th round this year, and through the first 2 weeks, people were asking questions about benching him, and we said on Sunday, and in a way, we got lucky. This was the week for Allen Robinson to show up, and he had a good matchup and this and that. But luckily, Nick came in and did what Nick does. But for me, as a Robinson owner in several leagues, I'm excited about it moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, when you look at Allen Robinson, 2 straight weeks, he's had a touchdown ripped out of his hands in the end zone for an interception. So when you consider that and take that into account, I think the arrow is definitely pointing up for Allen Robinson. If you had the chance to buy low, you're kind of regretting not getting it right now, because you're not going to get Allen you're not going to get Allen Robinson at a lower price than what you should have. But I mean, Foles also, Nick Foles also threw a duck that ended up going through the hands of a defender because Deion Jones, bumped into him right through the hands of the Falcons defender into Jimmy Graham's waiting hands. Then he fumbles. Anthony Miller picks up the ball. He fumbles, recovers his own fumble, and they end up scoring on that drop. I mean, look, there was some damn luck involved, but I guess I'm not sure how far it should be called luck against the Falcons defense in the 4th quarter. I just don't know how Dan Quinn has a job still.
Unbelievable.
He's next to go. He has to be the first to lose his job this year, right?
Too talented, way too talented there in Atlanta to be 0-3.
Dan Quinn, you had everything figured out in Seattle. Where did we go astray? You had everything figured out in the Super Bowl as well. What happened?
But I mean, so it brings me to, so we talked about Nick Foles and the offense. I mean, there's some other injuries that we could really talk about. But I mean, speaking of injuries, like right now, if you're 0-3 or you're 3-0, and you're looking at a team that heavily invested in the first or 2nd round in Michael Thomas, George Kittle, Christian McCaffrey, and they have these injured studs and they're off to a slow start. I'm interested to hear, are you guys wanting to potentially buy on these guys? Of course, we know they're studs, but how much? I mean, with Kittle, with McCaffrey and Michael Thomas in particular dealing with high ankle sprains, are you really willing to give up a lot to get either of these injured studs on your roster?
No. And it's just such a year of uncertainty. And I do feel like we've seen some key players stepping up and at least serving a role. Like I've won some matches I shouldn't have won without Christian McCaffrey now. And it boils down to roster construction. If you're really looking at dire straits and you don't have anybody that is fulfilling the role or at least growing into a further, capture of the touches for an offense, which thankfully I was able to do previously, I'm fine just not giving up an arm and a leg for question mark uncertainties. The only thing that's certain is when they're playing, they're excellent. But I'm not touching Michael Thomas. Christian McCaffrey, I'd say I would unload a little bit more because I do feel he'll be back in about 3 weeks and rearing to go. And we know what his touch volume is. But I'm scared of Michael Thomas and that nagging injury.
Not only that, but Drew Brees has looked rough.
Real rough.
I mean, I'm personally in one of those scenarios in a league that we're all in together. I'm 0-3 in a standard league, and I have Michael Thomas and AJ Brown. I'm like, what can I do? What can I do right now? There's literally nothing. What I'm going to trade him for peanuts to what? To go 0-4? I don't know what to do. I think it depends on your record and your league and all that, of course. But if you're 3-0 or 2-1 and you've got the depth, I'm okay with making a move for a guy like that. I guess of the players you mentioned, I feel the best about Kittle.
Okay. Yeah, because Kittle was questionable to even potentially return last week. Michael Thomas looks like he's trending in the right direction to potentially return this week. But I was just kind of curious because those are some huge names, that could come in and have a huge fantasy impact down the road. That owners may be wanting to push the panic button on and try to shake up their roster because they can't. In a redraft league, you have to make some moves. Like you can't just sit there and go down with the ship with the players that are sitting on your bench. Like you gotta, if you can get some value for some guys, it's going to help you more than getting a goose egg, on your and go to 0-5.
Right.
So I'm not saying give them away for peanuts, but I would definitely start taking a look into them. But when it comes to sell high, there's a handful of players that are off to a phenomenal start. I mean, particular at the quarterback position, Josh Allen and Russell Wilson come to mind. They are just lighting it up on a weekly basis. I mean, the Seahawks are somehow 3-0, and I feel like they can't stop a nosebleed, but it doesn't matter because Russell Wilson is just doing Russ things. I mean, give me your thoughts. Who would you rather sell high on right now, Josh Allen or Russell Wilson?
Oh, man.
Or do you not sell either of them? Is there a better candidate to sell high on than those two guys?
I'm not selling. I believed in both of these guys from the beginning of the season, and I just don't feel like it's worth getting rid of them right now, unless you're going to go get a Mahomes.
You know who I'm selling high on is Cam Newton. But as far as I'm concerned, Josh Allen, Dak Prescott, Russell Wilson, Pat Mahomes, and still I'll bang the Lamar Jackson drum as well. Those for me, I'm keeping them. I'm not selling them. At this point, they're propelling teams week after week. I mean, Josh Allen's stat line is just incredible. And I think it's just going to go, especially facing that Rams defense. I mean, Rams defense are not ones to toil with, yet Josh Allen kind of made it look easy. And with the tools he has available, and knock on wood, I shouldn't say it, but I'm going to say it, the health of those tools, Josh Allen is unstoppable. And so is Russell Wilson with his tools, which with the emergence of DK Metcalf, what is not to love with the best deep ball thrower accuracy-wise in the NFL in Russell Wilson chucking him the rock for deep tutties week after week after week. And I don't look for that to slow down at all. Tyler Lockett's been phenomenal. I love both players right now, and Dak Prescott I'll include in there as well. I mean, those three players can single-handedly propel you to a victory, even if the rest of your studs underperform or they're hurt.
Metcalf in particular is very interesting. I mean, he should have scored 2 touchdowns last week.
Yeah,
that was like an 8-point like kick in the stomach for anybody that was like starting DK Metcalf because of that touchdown that got poked out of his hands at like the 2-yard line and went out of the back of the end zone. So fumble lost and a tutty lost as well. But Metcalf, man, is off to a phenomenal start. I mean, this entire offense is cooking. Chris Carson makes me a little bit nervous. Because I know that he suffered a knee sprain. Go potentially get Carlos Hyde. And by the way, the snaps were even between Hyde and Travis Homer, by the way. So if you're in a deep PPR league, Homer is potentially worth a look as well.
We always manage to work in Travis Homer every year.
Unbelievable.
Tater,
is there any other guys that you feel like are off to a hot start that are, you're not really a believer in?
I don't know if I would say not a believer in. Alan Lazard kind of jumps out to me a little bit. I mean, granted, don't get me wrong. He looks fantastic, and so does Aaron Rodgers. But 6 for 146 on Monday Night Football with no Devontae Adams. I think if you have him, and someone is like, damn, yeah, they got, they're going to continue to just feed him the ball. No, Devontae Adams is out. That's why he got as much work and as much play as he did. Don't get me wrong. He's going to have a role, but I just don't think he's going to be, continuing at this pace. If I can sell high on Alan Lazard, who's off to a good start this season, that'd be somebody I would look to offload.
Yeah, I guess I agree with you on Lazard. My hesitation is Rodgers has said positive things about him in the media and says that he trusts him and this and that. I guess to play devil's advocate, you're not going to publicly bash anyone on your own team, right? But part of me deep down is like, if they didn't invest in the wide receiver position this offseason, should we believe in this guy? I mean, I started him in one league out of necessity, and obviously I'm happy with the results, but for sure I would sell high on a guy like that. But what about other areas of the league, like Calvin Ridley, for example? Would you sell Calvin Ridley, or are you a believer all season?
Oh, I'm a believer all season, man. The Falcons are cooking, and one of the offensively they're cooking. And Matty Ice with a banged up Julio Jones. I mean, whether Julio's in the lineup or he's not in the lineup, Ridley's balling out. So there's no way I'm parting ways with Calvin Ridley right now. No shot in hell. He's he's everything that I hoped for and a hell of a lot more to start this season. He's kind of this year's Chris Godwin. I mean, he's like he seems to be the number 2 to a stud that has taken a significant step up as far as target volume goes, efficiency, all of that. No, I'm not parting ways with Calvin Ridley. If there is a guy that I would like to go ahead and hit the sell button on, I mean, I'm going to throw 2 names at you. Austin Eckler and Kareem Hunt. Like those 2 players, I think that have had nice, encouraging weeks. Eckler finally found the end zone and had crazy volume in the passing game. I think that Eckler, though, is going to be competing with Joshua Kelly for the rest of the year. And do we know? I mean, so far, so decent for Justin Herbert under center. But right now, I think that you could still get very, very good value for someone like Austin Eckler. If you don't want to sell him, then that's totally fine because his passing game involvement is back to what we expected with Justin Herbert under center. If I'm an Eckler owner, I am praying that they don't put Tyrod Taylor back under center.
Right. Well, and Keenan Allen for that matter too, and Hunter. I mean, you could say that for a lot of these
across
guys.
The board,
yeah. Except maybe Mike Williams.
Yeah, I'd be fine with dropping Eckler right now in a trade. I think you could return a lot of volume or a lot of good volume players for Austin Eckler. Maybe pick up a little 2-pack there. Another guy that's really intriguing that I'm most curious to hear your thoughts on, Tate, is James Robinson and whether or not this continues in its current fashion. He's been heavily involved in the pass game. I think he'll build on that, but do we trust Jacksonville enough? And do we trust this first-year player enough to just say, you know what, he's been exceptional through 3 weeks. I'm going to hitch my wagon to him. Or do you offload him because I think he's a hot commodity in this current time, and game script is going to be playing to his favor week after week, in my opinion. So that's something I look for as far as a trade high, sell high.
Well, if he's going to be as involved in the passing game as he was in week 3, I'd actually prefer to keep him. Because he's seen at least 15 or more touches in every single game. And he's been good. I mean, it's not like it's just been, plotting 15 total touches every week. It's been pretty effective. In week 1, he didn't look great, but I thought he looked damn good against Miami. He was the lone bright spot of that entire offense on Thursday Night Football. I mean, certainly, Bucks, I think that there's going to be a weekly ceiling with him, though, because of the inefficiency or the inconsistency of the Jags offense as a whole. So, yeah, he's an interesting sell high option, but I just think this year he's going to see a ton of touches just because out of really the lack of other options out of that backfield, similar to Leonard Fournette. I think you're going to see top 15 production for the rest of the year, and he'll have some splash games where he gets up there in the top 5.
It'll be interesting to see he is the 5th ranked running back right now through 3 weeks, which is insane. It'll be crazy to see if he is a league winner this year. And Myles Gaskin looks really good too. I was not on the Myles Gaskin train. That's for damn sure. And he looks good, man.
He just can't score. Unfortunately, Jordan Howard gets like 6 snaps a game, and it's whenever they're inside the 3-yard line. And he's punched. Jordan Howard has scored a touchdown every single game this season. Wrap your mind around that.
Yeah, without amassing any yardage. I mean, it's just,
no yardage.
Give him the ball at the goal line, battering ram it in there. It sucks because I really have been super impressed with Gaskin throughout the passing game as well. I mean, I think he's had 15 or 16 catches for the year, so averaging 5 a game. Jeez Louise, in a PPR format, that's what you got to look for. It's not going to be sexy putting Gaskin into your lineup. But I will say, based on game script, he's going to catch more and more footballs week after week until a team really focuses on shutting that piece of it down. And I don't think they can with the receivers on the edge and Mike Gesicki. So I think upside through the roof for Gaskin. And I would even tell folks out there, if you can make a trade and get him included as an incoming piece, like let's say you're in one of those Christian McCaffrey boxes, he's just the +1. Right, but you're getting efficiency, you're getting touches, requisite touches, and Gaskin has been a great story as well as Robinson. To circle back with Tate, Kareem Hunt, I'm selling real high right now. His efficiency is not going to go up. He's ripping off 5 yards a clip. He's been involved in the passing game, not as often as I'd like to see, but he's been involved. I don't like the Browns, so I'm selling the hell out of them.
I love me some Chubb still, though.
Oh, yeah, Chubb rules.
I do want to sound off on Myles Gaskin. 22 carries on Thursday Night Football. 22, and he's caught at least 4 passes every single game. I don't think he gets 22 carries this week against the Seahawks, but I do think he catches 5 or more passes because they should be playing from behind with Russell Wilson just tearing everybody up. So, Myles Gaskin definitely, I wouldn't even say he's a buy low, but he's getting the snap count and the volume of a running back too. So, he is definitely somebody I would like to acquire.
All right, last question I want to ask you, or situation I want to ask you about. What are we to make of the Rams backfield? Darrell Henderson has looked pretty damn good. Malcolm Brown, injury, finger apparatus we talked about last week. But Henderson, it looks like it's his job right now. Am I crazy? I mean, what happens when Akers comes back?
We don't know what happens when Akers comes back. I'll tell you what I think should happen. Darrell Henderson should be the primary ball carrier of this group until further notice. I think that he has looked better in his work over the last 2 games than any other back. I mean, Malcolm Brown was productive in week 1 against the Cowboys. But I mean, 6.8 yards per carry in week 2 and 5.7 in week 3 with 20 carries against the Buffalo Bills. Darrell Henderson should be the primary ball carrier. Hopefully that is the case. There was no Cam Akers. Is this an outlier? Is this an aberration because of the situation? We'll find out. But Henderson, to me, is a top 20 option at running back this week.
Yeah, I'm starting Henderson if I have him. And he should be not available on waiver wires at this point, considering the garbled mess that is that backfield. People's kind of scooped them up last week or the week before. My last backfield I'd like to talk about here is, what do we make of the Baltimore Ravens? We're not seeing the same usage that we saw last year. There's been 36 total carries between J.K. Dobbins and Mark Ingram. I find that extremely alarming. Like, things are not going to plan for Baltimore.
Yeah, to me, it's kind of a mess. So thankfully, I'm not heavily invested in the backfield. It's just like I get this, and correct me if I'm wrong here, if you guys think I'm crazy, but I get this like Mike Vick feeling of like when you're playing Madden back in the day with Lamar Jackson. It's like they don't know what to do, so you're just going to take the ball and run with it. And I don't know that playing against the Chiefs is going to be successful in that way. Obviously, it was proven, but I'm concerned for that backfield. Like, Jackson, obviously, I still think is a top fantasy quarterback, but he really eats into the value of the 2 running backs if they're going to continue to use Jackson that way. No,
3 running backs, because Gus Edwards has 18 carries on the season.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, like, he has 8 more carries than J.K. Dobbins. Like, I mean, and he only, as far as him in comparison to Mark Ingram only has 26. So I mean, when you have 3 running backs splitting work, no matter how effective they are on the ground, which, by the way, I disagree with some of your points on the fact that Lamar Jackson opens up all kinds of running lanes for any back that is back there. The problem is that if you're dicing that shit up, and dividing the carries by 3, and then you take into account what Jackson does as well, I mean, there's just not enough to go around. You're banking on a touchdown because you're not getting enough work. None of these guys are. It is a true committee.
Yeah, and they're cannibalizing each other, and that makes it so difficult. You feel like, sure, Mark Ingram, you look at last year, you look at the productivity from the running back position, you say this has to work. But when the split is as severe as it is, 3 different ways, you can't trust him. I am not starting any Baltimore running back if I can have an alternative. Like, who would you rather start? Tyler Gaskin or Mark Ingram? Week to week, just in general.
I'd rather start
Miles Gaskin.
Tyler sounds better. I'd rather start Gaskin. It sounds crazy, but yeah, you could say it's split 4 ways when you throw Jackson's 15 carries a game in there. I mean, I just don't want a piece of that backfield right now. It's a headache.
Of the 14 games last year that Mark Ingram was healthy, he saw more than 10 carries in 13 of them. He hasn't topped 10 carries in any game this season. Like that, he was the one guy that I thought we were still going to see a healthy workload. But the thing is, we all anticipated that J.K. Dobbins was going to essentially replace Gus Edwards in his production and his work volume. That has not been the case. Gus has still been involved, and yet we still see J.K. Dobbins getting snaps and getting looks and getting touches. This has now become a full-blown committee, which what they are is they're probably a good DFS like lottery ticket, but for redraft and on a weekly basis, you're rolling the dice, rolling a three-headed dice and hoping it lands on that given week. And for me, I think I can probably find better options, but if you are ravaged by injury, I mean, and you need to take a high risk dart throw, they are still worth it because this offense is going, look, bad week against the Kansas City Chiefs, bad game flow. Don't worry about it. Don't panic on the Ravens quite yet. They'll be fine. They will still run the ball down most teams' throats. It's just they got Mahomes.
Right. I was going to say, I don't think we need to hit the panic button yet on them in general as a team, but in terms of the backfield, I'm definitely concerned on a week-to-week basis because it's hard to predict.
Oh, it sucks. Like anybody that's invested like a 4th-round pick in Mark Ingram, you are definitely panicking. If you spent a 6th-round pick on J.K. Dobbins, you should panic. You just don't know. The only guy that was worth his ADP right now feels like Gus Edwards, and no one drafted him.
The Gus bus.
Oh, man. All right. Any additional thoughts headed into week 4, gents?
No, join us on Sunday.
Yes.
10:30 Eastern.
10:30 Eastern. It's been busy out there. We appreciate all the support. And shout out to Monkey Knife Fight. If you guys never played on Monkey Knife Fight, we'll get those videos going for the individual matchups this week as well. Make sure when you make your first deposit on Monkey Knife Fight, use code FOCUSED, and you'll get yourself a 100% match bonus. Looking forward to the matchups this weekend, gents.
Oh, yeah. Do I just get to say my sign-off line? Do we get to talk about what's bothering Buck? What the hell's going on here? I didn't. It sounded like you were signing us off, and then you stopped.
Not too much
to you guys.
Not too much bothering me. Thursday night football. Jets, Bronx. That's bothering me.
Oh, man. It's bothering me too, Buck.
We'll get over it.
I'm
2 weeks until
Bills play. You guys need to stop. I mean, Sam Darnold has gotten a rough hand dealt to him. Terrible. Who's he throwing to? Who's his running back?
Pummeled every week.
We're going to get you some help, Sam. We're going to go get a 37-year-old running back in the offseason.
Yeah, but that tackle, Becton, great draft pick.
You know, they just
been playing well. He's
they need their savior, Brashad Perryman, to get healthy. That's all it takes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. He'll save the day. All right. That'll do it for this episode, though. If you haven't yet done so, this is your first time coming across the YouTube channel, go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss any of our fantasy football content heading into the rest of the 2020 NFL season. Of course, that includes the live show. So go ahead and click that little bell so you get notifications when we drop a new video or are going live. Also, we already mentioned the Monkey Knife Fight partnership. So you can find us on all the social medias and on Twitter at Fantasy Focused, at Bucks the 5'9", and myself at Dtater4. And until next time, everybody, good luck and later, says the Tater.
See y'all on Sunday.
See ya.